Take out what? You. What's a you? Yeah, he said
Oh, yeah.
I hate waiting. I hate waiting to buy.
Go ahead and start.
There's still people pulling in, and then he's got that thing there going.
I don't care.
Hang on.
Below the percentage they wanted
I did that with my soda all over the table.
Sorry.
Ain't no difference.
Happens all the time. You first have to go last.
I didn't think
Another cup? Sure you don't want one? Like, be careful, don't to let dry.
That's not bad. I can see mine, your wife, we go home today.
John, what you're up, give me
You can sit here.
Sit up front.
I saw that.
Funny you say that because the other night this week, I never go to Olive. We don't either. Really. And I was driving my all right. You're going to kick somebody else out
Good morning. How are y'all today? Everybody hear me okay? All right. We're here today to discuss electrical parts and components and using our campers properly. I've got some help today, Craig in our parts department. I also have Pete from service. They're going to kind of help me with this because this is a pretty vast deal. I mean, there's no way we're going to be able to get to all of this in an hour. So let's start off by talking about what kind of power supplies we have. So campers have either a 50 amp or a 30 amp power supply. Now, how do you tell them apart? One way is by the plug. A 50 amp is going to have 4 plugs. 30 amp, 3. Another obvious way is the size of the cords. Anybody ever wrestled one of these ones cold? 50. So exactly what is the difference? Well, believe it or not, quite a bit. Anybody ever heard of Ohm's law? A few people, yeah. So Ohm's law tells us if we know, say, the voltage and the amperage, with the Ohm's law calculator, it can give us the wattage. So if we know any of the 3 factors, it'll give us the answer we're looking for. So if we go 30 amps times 120 volts, that's 3,600 watts. What's a hairdryer use? 1,800 is what this gentleman said. That kind of puts it into perspective of actually how much electricity you have. Now 50 amps is plugged into a 240 volt outlet, so that's 240 times 50, which is 12,500 watts. That's your difference. Quite a big one.
One misconception, though, is a lot of people have welding plugs in their shops at home that are 220. Don't plug your 30 amp into that.
Yeah, old dryers and houses too.
Houses are 220, yes.
And it looks just like this, and this will fit. And your camper will not like it. It pretty much fries the converter, boards throughout, water heaters, air conditioners. Causes quite a bit of damage.
50 amp has 2 hots, a ground and a neutral. 30 amp only has 1 hot. So you're cutting the power in half. So you only got 1 leg, so that's the difference.
Now, there's all different kind of hookups nowadays, and most people have what's called the little twist locks, different types of adapters. So when you're adapting, say from a 50 to a 30, you realize you're dropping your power. You're not on that big 5th wheel, you're not going to run both air conditioners on this. You'll trip breakers, or worse than that, you'll start damaging the air conditioner. Then you'll be replacing it.
Or this happens.
Yep.
You end up melting plugs.
This customer here couldn't get his camper undone. I was actually involved in this one, so I had to walk him through of getting inside the camper, disassembling and taking all this apart. When you walk by here, you'll see this is completely melted together. That happens a lot, as you can see. So how do we stop that? With the Ohm's law is one way. You can kind of measure what's going on. There's some other simpler ways too. Everybody's water heater here, or most people's, probably run off electricity or gas. So when that water heater's on electric and you got a 30 amp unit, that's half your electricity. If you're running the air conditioner at the same time in the summer, guess what? That's the other half of your electricity. Then you might experience breakers tripping or burning up cords, components in the units. There's ways to monitor it. There's little gadgets you can plug into the outlets, but I'll tell you the simplest thing I know to do for the power source is a surge protector. It's well worth the investment. There's tons of brands out there in different sizes, but it's going to monitor the electricity that you have plugged into before it lets it into your camper. Now, is that gonna stop you from running too much stuff? No. That's the balance we have to figure out. And that's why that water heater has an option for gas.
You're gonna get faster recovery on gas too, so, with the electrical, a lot of people don't realize nothing on, you still got the draw. You've got your converters, always gonna, if you're plugged in, your converter's gonna be drawing. Anytime you turn a light on, you've got, if it's most of them are going with LEDs now. LEDs use about 1/10 of an amp per bulb, whereas the incandescent bulbs use 1.5 amps. So count how many lights you got on an incandescent bulb, and that's how many amps you're pulling on top of your converter and all that. So, TV antenna on. So a lot of little things.
They do add up pretty quick. Craig mentioned the converter. It's always sending a charge to the battery. And that's basically what its job is supposed to do, is just charge the battery, then the 12-volt components run off the battery. So if you have a camper that's been sitting in the driveway for 6 weeks, not plugged up, is the battery gonna be charged? Not unless you got a battery disconnect switch. So you head out camping with a battery with 3 or 4 volts in it. The whole time you're trying to camp, maybe the water heater ain't lighting on gas. This right here is running wide open to charge the battery while you're trying to camp. And it will cause odd things like, well, I set up camp last night and the water heater wouldn't come on. This morning it comes on. Well, while the camper is set and plugged in, it finally charges itself back up. That's why they have an adapter where you can plug in, say a 30 or a 50 to your household outlet, a 15 amp outlet. That's made just to charge the battery. And you can run your fridge on it. Get your fridge cold for your trip.
Got your lights on, getting ready to go. Just don't run your air conditioner.
True.
Even if you disconnect your battery, it's still being drawn because of your connectors for the gas and the CO2 connector. They still draw power.
Yeah, what he's talking about is the LP detector, a little green light. And sometimes after your camper's been sitting 2 or 3 weeks, you go by and it's beep, beep, and it's going off, and you like, man, I got a gas leak. No. When the battery gets down to about 7 volts, it'll start beeping. And those things draw about 1 amp, maybe.
And every manufacturer, if they have a factory installed disconnect,
It bypasses.
Pete can attest to this. Every once in a while, we're running one where they don't put everything doesn't disconnect on that battery. They've got it saved. I think Mike's running into that too, where there's something on there, you got to find it, that is not disconnecting with that. There's still a draw. Sometimes solar messes with that. And that's another thing. If you've got a disconnect and you've got it turned off for storage, solar panel normally does not charge your battery. Just like if you got disconnect off and you're plugged in, it doesn't charge your battery. So.
And another question I've answered a few times, how do I know it says off or on? Which way is cutting the power? Yeah. So unplug the camper, turn the lights on, and then go cut the switch off and on, and then mark your. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So if you've got a way to plug your camper in at home, just go ahead and leave everything, your batteries going and everything going to let them charge?
Well, so the more we use something, the quicker it wears out, right?
Yeah.
And these are made as recreational vehicles to be stored or used. So a battery disconnect switch that you can install yourself on the front of the camper would be the perfect solution in my opinion. When you get through camping, cut it off. When you get ready to go back camping, cut it on, and that battery will be really close to the voltage you left it. How long do these batteries sit on the shelves? Oh, months.
Well, hopefully not long.
Run to that warehouse, and you know what I'm saying?
Most ones we get in are when we order batteries in. they've got stickers on them the same month we're getting them. They're not 2-3 months old. They're always the same month that we got them into the store. And one thing, a dead battery will freeze. Just know that. Will freeze and bust. So make sure when you get done camping, you've got to, before you disconnect it, make sure your battery's charged up, especially in the wintertime.
So if you start your camping trip with a hot battery, while you're traveling, your vehicle is charging the battery. As soon as you plug back in, the converter is charging the battery. You get back home, everything is still fully charged, cut it off, and that's where it'll be when you get back.
Also keep in mind, not all the batteries are maintenance free. So a lot of them, if you got tops on them, check the water levels in them, use distilled water to top off those levels. Because they'll, I mean, with constantly charging and like that, it will boil them out. So some of the newer converters have got, auto detect will charge based on if you've got lithium in there or just regular lead acid battery. But there are some that have smart chargers where they'll go to a certain point and cut off, and then when it needs it, it'll kick back on. So which helps with that. But otherwise, a lot of the previous last few years up until then, it's just a constant charge. So just keep that in mind. It's just like boiling water. Eventually, that water's going to boil out.
So what about a lithium battery?
Lithium battery?
That's probably a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
Well, as far as your question, as far as charging,
Like storing for the winter.
store for the winter.
Yeah.
If you're done, I mean, the best scenario you can have is if you are done for the year, take that battery out of that unit. Take the battery out of it, take it in your garage or something and store it there instead of out in the elements through the winter for 3-4 months. It saves you the hassle of having to make sure you keep it topped off so it doesn't freeze on you and things like that. Now, if you are still using that unit for some reason through then you'll want to make sure that you are keeping it plugged up or charged or pulling it out, taking it in, putting it on a charger every week to 2 weeks or something like that. As far as lithium goes, the best way to store a lithium battery is at 50% charge. Is the best way to store one. If it's going to be sitting for a period of 3 to 6 months without usage, it's best to store it at a 50% charge rate, kind of the opposite of what lead acid is, where you want to make sure they're fully charged. So, but other than that, the charging sequences and stuff, your auto detect chargers and everything are going to take care of that for you and keeping it charged and topped off.
So what if you got it in a storage building and it's plugged up?
If it's in a storage building, it's plugged up, as long as you got the right converter in there on it, you'll be fine. Because it'll cycle through the maintenance that it needs to, and once it's fully charged, your converter will go into like a trickle charge mode.
So don't
Just
cut
keep
the
it topped
switches off, though. Leave
Yep.
all your switches on.
Your battery switch,
All those, yeah.
yeah, keep your battery switch turned on.
Yeah, because if your disconnect is on, it won't
It
charge.
won't recharge.
Converter switch, all that good stuff.
Yep.
I got 3 switches in it. Solar switch, converter switch, and main switch.
Okay. I mean, if you've got solar, you really don't have a need to carry an
Well,
RV.
it's
in a
It's
building.
stored.
It's in a storage building.
So it's covered. Okay, so your solar you can turn off because it's not doing anything for you at that point. So you can turn that one off. Keep the battery disconnect turned on. Go ahead and plug it.
Well, an AGM battery, which is a paper battery, will it freeze?
AGM will not freeze. Nope.
About the lithium, I'll let Pete explain this. Is there, some of y'all are probably wondering, is there an advantage to having lithium? What's wrong with my wet cell?
Yeah, so with lithium batteries, your advantages are you have, first of all, weight. So your weight, they're anywhere from a third to a half the weight of your standard lead acid or AGM battery. Another advantage to them is going to be the fact that on average, if they're taken care of properly, they'll last considerably longer for you than a lead acid. The average lifespan, believe it or not, the average for a lead acid battery in recreational vehicles is 2, maybe 3 years. Is the average life, and that's assuming you didn't go through a bad winter on you or hadn't been discharged to zero too many times. A lithium is going to be a little better at that for you. And then also a lithium battery, not to get too technical, but it will hold its voltage all the way down to fully discharged. So a lead acid battery, as it begins to discharge, from the minute it goes from 100 and starts going to 90, 80, the voltage is also dropping with that. So as that voltage drops, once you hit, a certain point, things will stop working. Things will start shutting off because it's not supplying the required voltage to them. Whereas a lithium battery, from 100 all the way to 5–10% of charge, will maintain this voltage all the way across, and then they just kind of dive off at the very end and go to nothing. So, they're going to hold a constant voltage for you longer. On average, they're going to last longer, and they're considerably lighter for you. So,
More expensive though.
Yeah.
fortunately, all that comes at a price.
One more question. What about a battery heater?
Battery heater
Should it be turned on in the winter when it's stored or not?
for lithium batteries, the heaters are recommended anytime you get down below freezing temperatures. So when you're down in the 20s and things like that, that's when you would want to have the heater on the lithium batteries.
If you had the trickle charge on, would you need the heater?
If you get down in those temperatures, it is recommended. If you get down in the sub-freezing temperatures, it's recommended to use the lithium battery heater. Otherwise, you don't need to worry about that.
So if you have your heater on, sub-freezing, and it warms up today to 40, does it need to be turned back off?
Yeah, you want to turn it off.
That's a lot of trips.
As suggested, because again, they take the battery out, put it in the garage.
I would say that's the ultimate scenario to save you a lot of headache of worried about it and everything else. Is if you're done with the unit for the season and it's put to bed for the year, just take that battery out of it. And then a lot of these things we're talking about right now and battery maintenance and all that, you don't have to worry about it.
And a lot of people from way back in the day, we hear, well, I leave mine plugged up because I'm afraid my refrigerator won't start back. That is like way old. Refrigerators were redesigned years and years ago to stop that problem.
It's kind of it's kind of a catch-22 there. It's, my dad leaves his plugged in all summer long. He just puts a trickle charger on it in the winter. His refrigerator, he's, knock on wood, he's got a 2001 motorhome. He's still on the original refrigerator. Hasn't had a cooling unit replaced or anything. And he used to leave it plugged in all year round with it on. In case they were ever wanting to go, it was ready to go. But it's kind of like the cooling units with the ammonia in it were like the old lava lights. It used to be where you didn't use them for a while, they clump up, and all of a sudden the stuff wouldn't move through the light because it clumped up. It's essentially how that
It
works.
was actually a pretty simple fix. On the back of the cooling units, the flow of the ammonia starts the cooling. And at the top, it had a flat bar, and that's where the problems are occurring. So now it's not flat, it's shaped like a house roof, basically. So it can't create the blockage. If you're not using the unit, especially for the winter time, empty it out, take the battery out, you're good to go. During the summer, the refrigerator thing kind of comes more into play. If, like my grandparents, they might take a whim and say, well, we're leaving Wednesday. It sat in its own shed, ready to go for the whole season anywhere. And then come winter time, he hated winterizing his. He would put a little milk jug heater in the bottom of the basement when they go. And even in wintertime, you might decide to hit the floor. So everybody keeps their units a little different.
Don't recommend that though. we had a customer that did that with a fifth wheel and caught some hay or straw on fire that's blocking the air, burnt the fifth wheel down, brand new Harley inside of it. So don't recommend that.
This is why I was sitting in stores where everything emptied out.
I got my fridge there.
But everybody uses them different. So the main thing is finding that balance of power. And if you trip a breaker, it's usually going to be where the converter is located. You'll see your breakers. And if they're not tripping, be sure and check the pole. There is some other odd things that can cause the camper to act funny. Elements of water heaters and things like that. Bring us back to the water heater. Do not turn it on electric unless it has water in it. it will burn the element up very quickly. Very quickly.
A lot of the newer, well, some of the models of the surge protectors will cut power off to your camper if it's not safe, if you're not there. And then once it's safe, it kicks everything back on. So you don't have to worry about a breaker being tripped. Come back, or if you got pets that travel with you and you're not there, and pets are, you don't have to worry about the air being off, food getting spoiled, all that. It kicks everything back on. So a little peace of mind there as well.
Yeah, most of these accessories, I don't like pushing them, but if I mention something, it's usually worth the money. Those can save you so much headache. It's unreal. Yes, sir.
What about 12-volt batteries? Okay.
Well, that'll increase your 12-volt power. You know, that will double it. So the batteries we sell are 100 hour,
About 70.
70 hours.
Through 24 is about 70 amp hour.
70 amp hours. So if you've got this little light on, and it's actually 1.5, but let's say it's 1, that battery will be dead in about 70 hours. So if you had 2, you're going to have 140 hours.
Well, the reason for that, sometimes I'm out primitive camping, you know, and I just figured it'd give me a better chance to start the generator.
Makes life easier on the converters, and nothing in the world wrong with 2 batteries. Just make sure to keep it in 12-volt series.
Right.
And we have a lot of customers that do that. Boondocking gets us into, well, there's a bunch of ways to go about that now.
Oh, good.
My favorite at this point in time, cost-wise, is a inverted generator.
That's
Well,
where I'm at right now. I bought 2 small inverters.
But
And I use the Watchdog, Bodog surge
Parallel
protector.
kit.
I
But
gotta be
the
on that.
generators have a floating neutral, and if I'm using the Watchdog, I can't plug nothing up. I can't start anything.
So we actually have a plug.
There's a plug you can put in the
That's,
generator.
I found somebody, and I just
Ours.
wired it myself
Yeah.
and plugged it
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, they do make them. I should have them back there. They just plug into the outlet on the generator.
Because
That's it.
my Watchdog is hardwired. I crawled in the basement and wired it up hardwired, so I don't have to have it plugged in.
Yeah.
And then I spent a camp out trying to figure out why the crap it wouldn't run nothing. And that's when I figured out it had a floating neutral.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, you want to make sure it's an inverted generator, 30 amp camper. We mentioned earlier it's 3,600 watts.
Inverter style, it gives you that clean power, so you don't have to worry about any interference like you've got CPAP machines or you're using computers, that kind of stuff inside.
And campers are loaded with these little things right here. And some of you may have to have a board replaced already in an item, but yeah, those are really sensitive. I think a lot of times we would get a call that, hey man, my water heater worked great last time, this trip it doesn't. And you may have experienced this yourself. You go to plug your camper in and you see a little arc. Well, that arc's going somewhere. And where we don't know. But it can end up somewhere like this, and then poof, this doesn't work. Refrigerator, water heater, this again stops that hassle.
So I want to touch on that, the surge protectors a little bit. So you have basic surge protectors, and those are your lower price units that are a little cheaper. And that's really all that they are, is surge protection. So protecting a surge of electricity coming into the unit, lightning strike or, transformer or something like that. The ones that are a little more expensive, the difference is they give you what's called low voltage protection. That's what's really important, especially in a lot of campgrounds where the electrical grids in them may be very dated. Or they're completely full with a whole bunch of motor homes and fifth wheels with 50 amp services and, just really straining that grid on.
In July, when everybody's got their air conditioning.
Yep, 2-3 air conditioners running per unit, everything like that. You can experience a drop in that voltage that you're plugged into. And if you remember when Eric started the thing, he talked about Ohm's law. And if that voltage goes down, amperage current goes up. And you overamp something, that's when you can burn it up. So what those will do is when they sense that low voltage drop, that's when they shut off, like Craig was referring to, and they'll shut off and protect your equipment for you from that surge in amperage of that voltage drop. And then once that voltage raises back up to a safe level, that unit's smart enough and it kicks back on for you. So, because otherwise you have no idea when a low voltage occurrence is happening. You don't know when it's going to happen.
Unless you got a voltmeter inside your outlet and you're sitting there watching your outlet
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
You
So
don't know.
that's usually what gets you, not the surge protection, protecting from, like, say, a lightning strike or something like that. Most of the time what gets you is that low voltage. And that's where you spend a little extra dollars on one that has that protection in it, but it does that. And they're even smart enough that they have timers on them to help with the air conditioners and help with the head pressure on them for if they shut off instantly or whatever. It allows that pressure to recoup, and before it fires itself back up, usually it's a few minutes or something.
120 seconds, I think, is the time.
Yeah.
That gives it time to do its checks, and then all that head pressure will come down with the compressors.
Yep. So that's even integrated in it as well. So that's the difference in the surge protectors, and then the surge protectors that include the low voltage protector for you.
What's your opinion on soft starts on AC units?
If you're going to be using a generator, get them.
Hard to start, kid,
Yeah.
Usually when you put your surge protector in at the site, it usually takes a few minutes for it to do the thing.
Yeah. And they'll run a check and check for polarity, check the grounds, check that it didn't wire backwards. That's happened in these things sometimes. And it'll do a full check for you, and it'll tell you the statuses of everything, give you all nice little green lights telling you everything's good, and then you can plug your unit into the.
If it's not green, you go to the campground and say, hey, something's wrong here.
Yeah.
Don't plug into it.
And I think Hughes even makes a transformer type that boosts the power up. So it's kind of, I mean, there's different price ranges. There's hundreds of brands. I do like Hughes a lot. They make really good products in my opinion. Any other questions on that?
It's worth the money. I was at a campground and mine has the low voltage, brown power, and it'd kick off every now and then. So I'd go out and monitor for the voltage was dropping down and holding at certain times to 90 volts.
Yeah.
Well, like you said here, you get that heat on there, and the guy next to me lost a board. He's like, man, it just starts every now and then. It cost him $500 to replace the board, did it himself.
Yeah.
Paid around the same price and save much of the time.
Yeah.
Worth the money.
The thing about this one here, also, you could put that app on your phone, as you were saying, you can look at that
Yeah.
every now and then and see what
Yeah, a
it's
lot
doing.
of them have the apps on phone. This one, Southwire's another one. App, Bluetooth, so you can
You can look on
see.
your phone and see what's going on.
Now, not when you're at Walmart.
Right.
When you're in your camper, you can see what it's doing. So, give them a few years, they'll come up with that.
You'll find the warranty on the watchdogs are a lot better in the service, because I've had to call the service before. They'll answer the question right then. That's how I found out about the floating neutral.
Yeah.
Because I called them, and they're very helpful.
All right. Well, electricity. Little device you may want to keep with you. If you're handy enough, just a multimeter. It just lets us check voltage, DC, AC. You know what I mean? You can spend what you want on these. This one's like $50-$60. They have them up to $300 or $400 flutes if you want one of those. You really don't need anything more than something $40-$50. And is it a necessity? No, I don't think so. If your battery is up to charge, you've got a surge protector in place. I mean, I don't think you're camping at that point. We've done all this so you're camping instead of messing with problems. And that's what all this stuff's about. Overusing the electrical components, it just starts trickling. The effects just start trickling and getting worse and worse. And again, low voltage seems to do more of it than anything. A little common sense and looking at your appliances. Say, well, the water heater's on, the air conditioner's on, the wife's curling her hair. And things are tripping. I mean, it really does get back to just paying attention to simple things like that. Now, as far as AC appliances, campers don't have a whole lot. The air conditioner, microwave, TVs, refrigerators in the older ones, some of them are all 12 volt now. But if you look at your camper, there's not many AC products there. And always remember that water heater on gas will save you a lot of headaches. Again, it'll recover quicker, especially if everybody's showering, the kids getting ready in the morning, whatever. That's why they do certain things. And then we've got the call that every time I cut my microwave on, my fireplace goes off. If you look in your breaker box, it'll say like micro option, something like that. And what they've done there is they've wired both of those components on the same line using a transfer switch, component A and component B. So the microwave in that case would be listed as component A. Anytime it needs to come on, and if the fireplace happens to be on, it's going to shut the fireplace off and it's going to do its thing. And some of you may have an outdoor kitchen with a microwave, and an inside microwave will be the same way, one at a time. So that's how the campers are made. That way you can juggle around. And your refrigerator, if it's gas and electric, on electric, 2.7, 3 amps at the most, it's not a lot. That's the reason why you can run it on a plug at your house or a household 15 amp outlet. Again, remember, if you're reducing down from 50 to 30 or 30 to 15 or whatever you're reduced down to is what your power is limited to.
I have a 30 amp camper, and I have a 50 to 30 reducer. Someone said I should always use 50 if it's available. Does it matter?
Doesn't matter. You're still only getting 30 amp with your camper.
Yeah. So inside of these things, this is a 50 to a 30. So inside of this, they basically kill off one hot leg.
So it's not any advantage.
No, ma'am.
Just allows you, like, there's no 30 amp spots available at the campground. There's only 50s. You're able to plug in.
I was standing there looking like, this don't plug in anywhere. And this guy's like, here, you need one of these.
It's handy to have the 32 or 50 to a 15 where you can plug into any size of them for campsites. If you have a 30 to 50 to 30 is always something to keep in mind, especially if you're traveling, not knowing that hadn't been to the campsites before. Most of the new campgrounds, I think, are putting in pretty much 50s. But there is a price difference also, I think, on the campsites.
Keep in mind, too, when you plug in, some people take electrical items and they have them outside the camper, and you plug it into that outside outlet on your camper. Just keep that in mind. Sometimes if you've got like Blackstone makes an electric grill, take an extension cord and use a 15 amp plug on the pole if you can. So like that's safe than having to use power up that you've got for your camper as well. So
a little simple fix is, go ahead.
When you're plugged into 50 or 30, should it always charge your batteries, no matter which one you use?
Yep. Now there's different converters nowadays, like Craig said earlier. The older ones constantly send a charge. The new ones kind of monitor things and keep the battery at a proper level. For the old style, if it just stays on all the time and nothing's running and the camper's just plugged in, it's going to cook the battery eventually. Yes, sir.
You say converter. What's the difference in converter and an inverter? Or is there one?
Yeah, there's a difference. One. Do you want to go ahead? Go ahead.
So a converter, which is what's going to come in all your units, it's in there from the factory. It's in there. It's what takes AC voltage, which is your power pole, what you have in your home. It takes AC voltage and converts it to 12 volts, which is like what charges your battery.
That's a converter.
That's a converter.
Okay.
That comes in all units. An inverter does the opposite, where if you're wanting to be able to power a 110 volt device, something that you can plug into the wall off of batteries, it takes 12 volt DC and turns it into 110 volt AC off of battery power. That's what an inverter does.
Yeah, all the travel trailers, and so you start getting into the fifth wheels with residential fridges, or
Motorhome.
solar panels, motorhomes. I mean, everything lower than that is usually got a converter. When you start getting into the residential stuff, you get the inverter.
That's why I
And
asked the question. I think I have an inverter.
And not everything will run off the inverter too. They don't wire the whole thing to run off of it. So they may have the fridge on it only, or the fridge and maybe a couple outlets.
Okay.
So you may not be able to run your TV on battery. You know, they're not going to put everything on it because you've got to have quite a bit of battery bank to run your whole camper on.
I'm still
How many
confused.
are you? Battery. Probably 108, three.
And I'm just going off of a few years ago, I talked to a dealer that was out west, and they were doing conversions for people wanting to live totally off the grid and run everything, air conditioners, everything. They were doing at that time, 3-4 years ago, $16,000 upgrades with the batteries costing roughly $1,000 a piece, and they were running 7-8 batteries.
Wow.
And that was for everything. Now, some of these newer ones are coming out that you can run. There are packages, solar packages and stuff that you can run the air conditioner off of them. But it's all about the size of the battery that's in there and how many. But you can't run everything. So, you know, they don't have every outlet hooked up to it and all that. So
For his reference, I have an inverter. I have a battery pack of 6. They're lead acid. Then they're wired in series and parallel, so I've got about 600 amp hours. You only get 50% of that out of lead acid. When I go out west and I park at night, if I'm fully charged that, I'm gonna go to bed, I run a fan, my refrigerator runs off AC, blah, 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 I run a fan all night, a few things like that. By the time I get up in the morning, overnight, I've probably got, when the first time the coffee maker comes on, the generator starts. Yeah, I can get probably about 7-8 hours tops with just a few loads because it just draws that lead acid down better. You get a lot better with lithium because you got 90 to 95% depth of discharge. Got a lot more options there. But anyway, I get about, probably with about 7-8 amps running. I can run overnight. But I got 6 batteries.
So you can keep adding and increase that, and if you're just starting, just thinking about getting into it, so you can see it's kind of an expensive process. It's going to depend on where you go and that stuff. But I would still, just like he said, in the morning, guess what kicks on? Generator.
I'm at that point now, and I bought the generator.
At this point in time,
Fourth
you
of the cost.
yeah. I mean, it's these things run. How long does that one run on a tank?
on a tank with that one, depending on it's got a smart throttle, so the more power you use, it'll idle up. If you got your air conditioner on, turn the smart throttle off. It's going to be idled up all the way. But if you're not, it'll idle up, so saves on power. My daughter's softball coach has one. He runs one the whole weekend when we go to tournaments. He'll get about 7 hours under full load if the air conditioner's on before he has to put fuel in it again.
So I use dual fuel. I use propane rather than pack gasoline with my personal preference, I guess. Explosive.
Yeah, and a lot of those you come with options from the factory where you can
And I
have
bought
stuff.
2 inverters instead of 1. So if I don't want to run the air conditioner, I just run one inverter.
Yeah, you can get these if you've got a 50 amp camper. You can buy 2 of these and buy a parallel kit to give you your 50 amp, as opposed to going 30 amp with one.
Yes, sir.
On that converter and inverter, as a rule, if you've got a residential refrigerator, you're gonna have an inverter, right?
For traveling, yes.
Yeah, and if you've got the gas and the electric refrigerator, you're gonna have a converter in there.
Correct. The
Well,
The camper style refrigerators switch over to 12 volt in traveling motor. You got it set on auto. So it switches over to gas, which requires 12 volt.
I have a fifth wheel that has gas refrigerator and AC, gas and AC.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I have an inverter, but I have a gas AC refrigerator.
So the refrigerator requires 12 volts for the gas, requires 120 volts for the electric.
For the electric, right.
Yeah.
If I plug in, it automatically switches over
Yeah.
off gas and gets me
Yeah.
off gas.
Most of them have the auto setting.
Auto
That's where to keep it if anybody
Yeah.
doesn't already. That way if the power does go out, it'll switch and run off your battery. Yes, sir.
Look up 2,000 volt, converter, what would that run? Does that run your air conditioning on small unit?
Converter's not gonna.
2,000, you probably say 2,000 watt in block. Yes.
No.
What's it gonna do?
2,000 watt inverter is gonna run most everything except your, it'll run your 1,500 watt microwave, run 1,500 watt microwave, naturally 1,500 watt hair dryer, ice coffee maker. This is all independent, not at the same time, Then that's most other things, TV or, your refrigerator, residential refrigerator, that's what run it.
I don't know what you know.
If it's just a great one, they just cut that box. I'm so figured out
Converter ready.
I mean, my hand, gas wild. It's just, converter ready.
Oh, inverter prep. Inverter prep is what that is, yes. So what that is, yep, so the manufacturer pre-wires to put an inverter in there, and then it has that little loop, and you would cut that, and wire, that's the AC line, and then that is going to go to specific outlets that they pre-wired that to, and those outlets, stickers on some of your outlets in your unit that say inverter, or inverter prep, and that's telling you that wire that you would cut and mount that inverter in right there is going to power that out, and that out, that out. But it's not gonna run the whole camper. That prep isn't, an inverter right there will not power the whole camper. Just the outlets that say inverter prep is what that wire is gonna run.
Yes, sir.
So, solar, is it basically just keeping that battery charged? I mean, that's.
That's the kits that are coming out from the factory on most of the smaller ones. That's basically what that's meant to do.
Yeah.
Basically, yes, sir.
Yeah, solar is meant to charge a battery or bank of batteries. Solar is not really designed to run devices. So some people think, well, if I put a bunch of solar panels, can I run this and can I run this? No, the panels charge the batteries. The batteries run the inverter or the devices in your camper. The more battery you need, the more solar you need to charge that battery bank. Is kind of where you're at there with that.
And the systems are designed so, is yours a pull behind or a motor home?
Pull behind it, just 18 foot.
18 foot.
Each side.
Yeah.
So motorhomes for years and years were generally the ones that had inverters. Usually it was the TV, the refrigerator, and the kitchen, a plug in the kitchen to cook up something. Because in a motorhome, you're traveling, and you got people traveling inside of it, and you need to use devices. The pull behind's not so much. But even in a motorhome, anybody's got one here will tell you, will that dash air conditioner cool it when you're traveling in it?
Heck no.
Heck no. That's right. So what do you got running? What do you got running?
Air conditioner a lot.
And you got your generator running,
Yeah.
rolling down the road. So the generator's on. We got full power. And sometimes you will see a 30 amp motorhome with 2 air conditioners. Now, like, how are they doing that? Inside there's a switch where you can pick. And the other way they do that is the generator that is put in that camper is 50 amps. The short cord is 30. So when that unit is plugged in at a campground, you can only use one AC. If the generator's on, you can use both of them for traveling. So, I mean, there's, each thing leads back to what direction you as a person and how you use your camper, what you want to do.
Like I said earlier, my dad's motorhome from 2001. Well, it has an energy management system in it, and he can run both of his airs on 30 amp. It sheds back and forth automatically. So it, runs it back a little bit and runs front and just sheds back and forth to keep everything cool. So it can be done with that, but that system is, I believe, is no longer available too. So,
Well, it really depends on how you're using campers. And if you'll notice, we always came back to some of the older stuff is still the best and most reliable way to do things, like taking the battery out. Everybody's different on how they want to store it, keep it, and use it. Me, I prefer always to go back to the older ways, the generator for boondocking, if allowed.
but we get it. If you got 6 batteries, it's a lot.
Run your gen set and then get everything ready for night and shut her down. In the morning you wake up, and fire up again.
Like the manual,
like taking them off.
Stuff too. So it's, I don't know how the newer ones are, but I'm a few years older, but on those with Class A's, they just generator starts when it needs to. It senses the battery levels and
A bunch of systems bouncing back and forth to doing the same job, basically, is what you run into in the big
it
things.
starts at 3 o'clock in the morning, scare crap out of you the first time. You're like, what the crap just happened there?
That no water pump kicking on in the middle of the night.
That's a problem.
That's a hard one to find sometimes. Okay,
Is it also charging up your battery?
oh yeah.
Yeah, because you're plugged into it. So anytime you're plugged into a power source like that, you're going to be charging your battery.
And your truck should be charging while you're traveling. The truck should have a charge wire hooked up that charges the battery while you travel.
If you don't, I learned this lesson the hard way.
We all do.
If you don't run what he said, a charge wire on your truck, the alternator system and the battery control system of the truck will not charge the camper because it doesn't know it's there.
Yeah.
You have to run a charge wire.
And some trucks it's there, but some trucks have it, and it doesn't work. Well, it requires a fuse being put in the fuse block on some of them as well, up in the fuse block in the engine. So.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so charging the camper, it just doesn't do the 7 o'clock?
This is 12 volt. We'll send 12 volt back to the battery.
Winter drive.
Yeah, the some
Winter drive. Not when you're just parked and it's plugged into your truck.
depending on the truck, yeah. Some
And
of them
hey, you
have
gotta
to
watch that too.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll drain your truck batteries. Your truck ain't running. Depending on the old trucks.
And some of them you have to be in drive. You can't just have the engine running and charge it. Some of them you have to actually be in drive, and then some of them you can just have the truck running with it plugged in. Depends on Dodge, Ford, Chevy. They, nobody can, just like RVs, they can't do anything the same. So,
That's charging?
call the service department, and they can ask, they can tell you what truck you have, or you can come by, and we've got a tester, we can plug into it and tell you if you've got power going back to that plug.
Yes, sir.
On the 7 plug, which plug is the charge wire? Can you test it on?
Yes, you can. It's best to look it up. You can just type in 7-way diagram. Google 7-way diagram, and it'll show you what every pin is. Off my memory, your charge wire, I think it's the one that's about 1 o'clock. Off to the right a little bit, about 2 o'clock. That top right pin up there is the 12-volt charge wire.
And the 7-way's got that funny shape. Make sure that you put it in the right direction. We had a customer plug one in upside down on the Ford truck. How they got it in there, I don't know. Oh, so we put the charge wire to the brake control, and the brake control anyway reversed those, and then started frying wires and all kinds of stuff. So we kind of pay attention to that too. But most of the time you can't. This happened to be a Ford truck, and you let it happen.
Yeah, same way with these. Getting them in tight when you're plugging them in. They're loose.
Heat causes
that, but just make sure you've got a tight connection, because the loose connection will create that arc in there, and then stuff starts, burning up. So make sure those connections.
Another way with those 7-way cords, I think you can Google it just like it said, and in the parts department back there, if you got the phone with you, take a picture of the cord. Each cord or each 7-way will have a diagram on it, and it's universal.
And on their truck, a lot of newer trucks, when you flip that lid up, it's got a diagram. It's not colored, it's black just like the plug, but if you look, there's a diagram of the pins and tells you what they are too. I mean, underneath of that lid, you flip up the plug your set way in.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
You said on your cable off the truck, you'll come by here and they will check your box to make sure it's charging. Right?
Yes, yeah, we just got a simple thing we can plug into the back of your truck and it'll tell us if your 12-volt charge wire is got power to it. Yeah.
Those little things, you can buy some cheaper versions too that you can just stick into the plug and hit your blinkers, brakes, and it'll light up what all's working. They're $7 or $8.
I've got a peculiar situation with it, and I just like somebody with the meter.
Yeah, just pull up. I mean, yeah, you can just pull up the side door over here, and we can go out. We can just take the tester out there.
It won't take
plug
2
it in
minutes.
and see what
Need an appointment.
see what it's doing. No.
Okay, I'll come by someday.
Yeah.
Next week. I live right over there on stuff.
Yes.
And I'll explain to him what happened to it when I bought it.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Question about, your experiences with dual fuel generators, running it off propane. Has there been any positives, negatives with that?
Propane?
Sorry, I'll say. The positive is, you've got propane. Most all your units have got propane, so you aren't searching for gas. The one negative that I can think of is it isn't near as efficient.
In other words, go buy you an extra fuel tank.
It chews through LP faster
Yeah.
than it does gas. The LP isn't as efficient as far as powering that generator, so it does. It's thirsty when you run it on LP.
There is one I discovered, again, like everybody else the hard way. There is on a propane generator, dual fuel, there's a vacuum switch that has to actuate in order to suck vacuum off your camper into the generator. And if it doesn't, you may get it to start, but if the generator doesn't run long enough to create a vacuum, the switch will never open. It'll shut down and you'll fight it. So they make push buttons for those. You can push it, hold it, start your generator and get it running and then let off of it and you're good to go. It's a trick running the generator off propane.
He's talking about running the generator off propane. Some other things you have to do, they're a lot more technically involved.
We haven't really messed with a lot of the dual fuel.
They use so much propane and the cost is just not there at all. This is a much cheaper, much better way to go. You can even get them from the factory with those in there, but everybody I know that's got them, so you can't buy them with propane, especially if you're going in the fall and the winter. Yes, sir.
The other thing on propane, you lose power. I mean, it's a 3,000 watt generator, you've got the
2,500 watts, yeah.
Back to your generators, I got a 5,000 ohm man to come with the camper.
Mm-hmm.
And the first year I was having, second year I was having lots of problems with it. Finally started. And then finally I took it down to Cummins. They deal for those. And my fuel pump was out. I was trying to start it up. And they end up, they said it needs, the fuel pump was bad. And then he got to tell me, I got toy all of my gas tanks at one end, the generators at the other. And I learned when I was in high school that pumps do a lot better job of pushing than they be sucking.
Yeah.
That just was a basic thing that when you had the vacuum. But he put it, they went ahead and it was another $1,500. They run me another line to put a pump back by the fuel tank. So I got, he said, because if you don't, that other fuel pump ain't gonna last long if there's the one they built on the engine.
Yes, sir. And the jets and the carburetors on those generators are real small. So recommendation is every 30 days let it run.
Yeah.
and let it run up to temperature. I mean, let it run, put a load on it. Don't just run it 5 or 10 minutes, you're gonna build up moisture.
That's the main reason I've been leaving it plugged in all year long, because you ain't got no battery, you ain't gonna start the thing.
And that goes back to disconnect switches and all that kind of stuff. I'm assuming you got a motorhome
No, it's a fifth
with
wheel.
a fifth wheel toy hauler.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways to go about it, but the toy hauler, he's probably got a gas tank in it too.
Yeah,
Where a regular fifth wheeler can.
It's
not
got a
gonna
gas
have it.
tank in the back, there's a 20-gallon tank, and it's got a little pump on it, you pump you some gas out of it.
Yeah.
But it supplies that generator also.
Mhm. And most of the time, unless it's a toy hauler and it's a generator from the factory, is gonna be LP. Toy haulers are probably the only exception that I know of. It's gonna have a gas option.
I was thinking about a long time ago, why couldn't they just put a LP, the 2 LP tanks sit right up there?
It'd go through those tanks like wildfire,
It would,
especially on a big toy hauler we're trying to heat, yeah.
okay.
That's one of the biggest difference I can tell you between the two.
Well, I would have thought the LP would have cured all these fuel problems I had.
Well, again, it might.
Yeah.
You're gonna lose power, compared to gas. Again, and the cost.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do something like that, if you got 2 30-pound tanks, I'd give 4.
Well,
I mean, I'm not, no messing around.
Since I've got that extra pump back there, and I go out through the winter and start it once in a while, since then, it's been okay.
Yeah, if you crank it once a month, generally you won't have too many problems.
Listen, what you got?
What's a good size generator to have?
So that all depends, it's a question a lot of people ask about solar panels, batteries, inverters, generators. It depends on what you're wanting it to do. How many air conditioners do you have? That's the main one. What are you wanting to run at the same time with, your air conditioner? So if you're looking at a single AC unit, to be able to run one AC, and most everything else you would want to run in there like normal. Something like, this one right here, which is that, 3,500, 4,000 watt generator. Perfect. It's gonna run that for you, it's gonna run that AC and most other things that you want to run. It will not run 2 air conditioners.
It's not gonna run your air conditioner, your microwave at the same time. Use one or the other.
And they're all just 30.
Yeah, we got 30-amp plugs right on it, so you don't have to have an adapter or anything, you just plug. Well, if you've got a 50-amp, obviously you're going 50 to 30, but it's got a 30-amp plug directly on it.
And you can get kits to link them together if you need to be.
You want to run multiple ACs? They make this a simple little parallel kit. It's very inexpensive. That links 2 of these together. It gives you a 50-amp plug. Or you could, run 2 ACs or things like that.
All right, well, I think we have something from Parts and Service here.
What we're gonna do, whoever pre-registered, they've been doing this my first seminar this year, so we're gonna pick three names out here of people that pre-registered. Pick your name, come up. We got 3 boxes here. Whichever one you want. Mystery.
Ties to the theme of the day, too.
And after this, y'all have any more questions, feel free to come up.
Oh, there's a little piece of the paper.